The Federal Reserve cut interest rates today for the first time since the pandemic's early days, turning the page on an era of dangerously high inflation and making a major shift at the central bank that could bring about a turn in the real estate market and could see a shift in the way the economy continues to develop. Now that interest rate cut has been, the interest rate now, it was at 5.25. Let me start over. It was at 5.5%. It will now be at 5.25%. That's good news for lots of first-time home buyers and others who are seeking to get a reduction on interest rates. And in other news today, the House defeated a $1.6 trillion stopgap spending bill to extend current government funding until March and impose new proof of citizenship requirements on voter registration, as Republicans and Democrats alike rejected Speaker Mike Johnson's proposal to avert a shutdown at the end of the month. The bipartisan repudiation was expected after several Republicans had made clear they would not back the spending plan, and Democrats almost uniformly opposed the voting registration proposal. And once a freewheeling former president who largely moved as he pleased, Donald Trump this year has been increasingly constrained by the growing security precautions that surround him. He has survived what law enforcement has described as one confirmed and another potential assassination attempt, had his campaign emails hacked by alleged agents of the Iranian government, and been the subject of a stream of threats from Iranian officials who are seeking revenge for his decision to kill an Iranian general in 2020. And Senator J.D. Vance has been on the defensive for more than a week after repeating baseless claims that immigrants living in a small Ohio city were stealing and eating local animals, that is. His efforts to pivot the story into one that's politically advantageous are clumsy, in part because the reality is so stark. Vance, someone attuned to the right's online conversations, was quick to amplify the anti-immigrant rumors circulating among supporters of Donald Trump. Threats against people and facilities in the city of Springfield followed his activity on social media regarding this vicious rumor. And a federal judge today ordered Sean Combs to remain in jail until his trial for sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy, rejecting an appeal by the music mogul's lawyers requesting that he be released on bail. Judge Andrew Carter said at a hearing in Lower Manhattan that Combs posed a risk of witness tampering and was a danger to the safety of the community. He rejected an unusual proposal from Combs' legal team in which he would have remained at his mansion in Florida, monitored around the clock by a private security force. The lawyers also offered a $50 million bond for his release that was going to be guaranteed by his mother, as well as 3 of his adult sons and the mother of one of those sons. And Black women are more likely than white women to die from even the most treatable types of breast cancer. Now, this is according to a study that was just published in the Journal of Clinical Oncology. The experts say this underscores that it's racial disparities, not biology, driving the biggest differences in death rates between Black and white women. While Black women and white women are diagnosed with breast cancer at similar rates, get this, Black women are 40% more likely to die from the disease. And the Teamsters president, Sean O'Brien, has shown an openness to former President Donald Trump, dividing the powerful Teamsters union. Neither candidate, however, will benefit from an endorsement from the Teamsters. As they stated today, there will be no endorsement for this year's presidential candidates. The Teamsters National Black Caucus, more than a half dozen Teamsters locals and members of the union's national leadership have already endorsed Kamala Harris over Mr. O'Brien's objections, organizing a Teamsters Against Trump effort that has undermined Mr. O'Brien 2 years into his first term as president. The union previously endorsed Biden in 2020, as well as the Democrats Hillary Clinton in 2016 and Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012. It's just this new president that's just been there for 2 years that has decided that it's okay to support Donald Trump, even though he has been the most anti-union president ever. We'll see what happens to Mr. O'Brien's tenure given this position. That is the news of the day, and this is Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, I'm joined by Dr. Omikango Dibinga and Katrina Robinson. These are regular contributors to the show. They're going to help me break down today's trending and breaking news. And in hour two, you might have watched the Emmys on television or on social media sites where they had lots of posts. You may have been just into the best dress, who wore what, but there was something really special at this year's Emmy. And that is the executive producer, the director of Winning Time. Winning Time is this series about the rise of the Los Angeles Lakers. Well, this year, Winning Time and The Gilded Age both were nominated for Emmys, and it was the first time that an African-American woman was recognized in the drama directing category. Now, you may say, oh my God, how can that be? Well, that's true. No Black woman has ever been recognized by the Emmys, the biggest award for television productions, for directing a drama. So in this hour, I'm going to be joined by actress, director, Sally Richardson Whitfield. Many of you know Sally because she worked for 20 years on film and TV as an actress before stepping behind the camera. However, since 2011, she's steadily built a resume tackling comedy, drama, action, fantasy, and more. And Winning Time, this series fact-based metatextual dramatization of the rise of the Lakers, not only leveraged almost all aspects of her ever-expanding skill set, but also established her as that most valuable collaborator on whatever project in which she works. In the parlance of Winning Time, Sally Richardson Whitfield is a utility player. I'm going to sit down with Sally in hour two and talk about what it meant to be the first woman to break a glass ceiling, yet another glass ceiling in the entertainment business. What was it like to be at the Emmys with her husband and her daughter and son, and all of the accolades and attention that she's getting? We can name our favorite actors and that talent in front of the camera, but a lot of folks don't know who direct these winning series. So we're going to introduce you to actress, director, and all around just amazing person, super talented Sally Richardson. So make sure you stick around for hour two. But before I bring on my guest, here's what I'm thinking about. You may not have seen this, but the mayor of Atlantic City, New Jersey, and his wife, not just the mayor, but his wife too, were indicted yesterday on charges related to the alleged abuse of their own teenage daughter. Now, prosecutors are alleging that this abuse happened between December of 2023 and January of 2024. The mayor's name is Marty Small Sr., and his wife is LaQuetta Small. And they are accused of physically and emotionally abusing their daughter on multiple occasions when she was both 15 and 16 years old. Now, they say during one of these alleged assaults, the mayor hit his daughter multiple times in the head with a broom, causing her to lose consciousness. They say another incident that happened, he threatened his daughter, saying that he would slam her down the stairs, grab her head and throw her to the ground and smack the weave out of her head. Now, this is an alleged threat made by the mayor to his teenage daughter. He is also accused of punching his daughter repeatedly in her legs, causing bruising during another incident. Now, get this, if that's bad enough, and that is pretty damn bad, his wife, who is the superintendent of the Atlantic City Public Schools, is also in this indictment. She's been indicted as well because allegedly she hit her daughter, on several occasions. Wow, it's alleged that she punched her daughter multiple times in the chest, leaving bruising, that she dragged her daughter by her hair, struck her with a belt on her shoulders, leaving marks. Apparently, the girl's boyfriend took pictures of all of these bruises and marks, and he was able to turn over that evidence to the prosecuting attorney. Apparently, there was an investigation of these incidents, and on one occasion, the daughter says she had fallen while she was playing with her brother. Her father backed that story up, but she was at an event at her school, and they were talking about mental health issues. and they had the kids draw a circle, happy face, sad face, or neutral. And she drew a neutral face and said abuse. And of course, that prompted a further investigation where she finally came forward and talked about all of the abuse that she has been suffering since then. And after the indictment of the father and the mother, there has also been an indictment of this woman. Her name is Constance Days Chapman. She was charged with official misconduct, child endangerment, and other offenses for failing to report the abuse of the daughter to state child welfare authorities as mandated by law. She was a principal at the school where the daughter attended. Now, this story caught my attention for a lot of reasons. One, I'm a mother. Two, I'm a child advocate. Three, I'm a civil rights lawyer. And four, I'm just sick and tired of people who witness these kinds of atrocities sitting by and doing nothing. Now, we don't have, in most instances, laws that mandate that people step in. We do, however, have mandatory laws as it relates to school teachers and principals. And if they see that a child has been abused, they do have a legal obligation to report it. And if they don't, they can be charged, just like this principal is being charged. And I'm also thinking about some testimony that we've seen in the Tyree Nichols case. Those three officers who said they want their day in court, they're on trial. Two officers pled guilty. One of the officers that pled guilty has come into court to say Tyree Nichols was never a threat, that they beat that man to death because they were mad because he didn't stop when they told him to stop, and they hadn't made any arrests that night, and they wanted to make an arrest for the purposes of their record. And so when he didn't stop immediately, they were so angry that they took out that anger and beat that man to death. Now this former officer, fired police officer, who's pled guilty, is coming forth telling that story. So let's talk about that in the context of Sean Combs. He's been indicted, very serious federal charges, could face life in prison, but there's a RICO charge, and RICO means there's a criminal enterprise. And for there to be an enterprise, there have to be other people involved, employees, security staff, perhaps managers, agents. No one else has been charged yet. But I'm talking about these stories because I'm hoping people are starting to see a pattern here. If you see abuse as it relates to a child in school, or you see a girlfriend that's being abused by her boyfriend, it is not okay to do nothing. Even if you're not a mandatory reporter, it is not okay for people to have watched Sean Combs beat the many women that he beat, to sexually assault the many women that he's been accused of sexually assaulting, to continue working for him and not report it. And it was not okay for these officers to watch their fellow officers beat Tyree Nichols to death and do nothing. Because these five officers collectively, they're going to serve over 200 years. I'm confident that the three officers on trial will be found guilty. No doubt in my mind. And they're going to get a very, very stiff penalty because they're so arrogant as to think they can go into court and continue to lie about what happened to Tyree Nichols that night. So they're facing life in prison, some of them. And this is just their federal trial. They still have their state murder trial. So between the feds and the state, they're going to jail for life. Sean Combs, if convicted, and right now the evidence is so overwhelming against him, he could be facing 30 to life in prison. And this mayor and the superintendent and this principal, if these allegations are true, and I can't imagine that this 15, 16-year-old girl has made up this story about both her parents, that the boyfriend has photographs, and the mayor's statement is the DA shouldn't be sticking his nose in our business. This is a family matter. Well, dude, if you hit your daughter and send her to school, it ain't a family matter. It's a state matter. Hello. So, if these allegations prove to be true, I hope they go to jail for a considerable amount of time too. I can't even understand people watching this kind of abuse happen to people, knowing that, like in the case of Tyree Nichols, people can lose their lives literally, and you stand by and you do nothing. There's not a job on this planet. There's not money enough on this planet for you to be a participant and to be complicit in abuse of anyone, whether it's a child, a woman, a man, or any victim. So I hope these three cases serve as a warning sign to people. If you see something, say something. If you see something, do something. When we come forward, more of today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
In real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Don't settle for bumps, ingrowns, and itch due to dry skin. Try Venus for pubic hair and skin, the razor and regimen specifically designed for your pubic area, featuring a razor with patented irritation defense bar and skincare regimen that is dermatologist and gynecologist tested. Venus helps protect your pubic skin from shave irritation. Discover the full regimen of products at GilletteVenus.com.
Work is busy, and home,
Mom!
pretty much the same. But you wouldn't know it because my skin doesn't look stressed thanks to Olay Retinol Body Wash. Its hydrating formula is packed with vitamin B3 complex plus retinol. I use Olay Retinol Body Wash to transform my skin from dry to moisturized and visibly renewed. Sure, I still have stress, but my skin looks amazing. Try Olay Retinol Body Wash for visibly renewed skin in just 14 days. Also try Retinol 24 Body Lotion.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We are back, and we are breaking down today's trending news with Dr. Omikango Dibinga and Katrina Robinson. All right, guys, we usually start the day off with politics, but we got to start the day off talking about people behaving badly, from Sean Combs to this mayor and his superintendent and wife to these officers and Tyree Nichols. I'm just disgusted with human beings thinking that somehow it's better to protect their jobs or their status or their position than to report obvious abuse that they're witnessing. I mean, the Sean Combs enterprise, Dr. Dominga, as it's alleged in this indictment by the Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney's Office, is some of the allegations. These freak-offs, 1,000 bottles of baby oil, guns, AR-15 type rifles. What possibly? Then I'm thinking, let me just throw this in here. There's a document that summarizes what the bail offer was. Really well thought out. I got to give his lawyers a lot of kudos for doing the best they could with what they had to work with in terms of trying to get him out on bail. $50 million house that they had him pay off the mortgage so that it would be unencumbered. His mother co-signing, his 3 adult sons, and one of the mothers of his children coming to New York so he could turn himself in, just doing all the things to try to mitigate what they knew was going to be the arguments made by the prosecutor. But I was thinking about Sean Combs' mama last night. What must his mother think as she reads these allegations of the conduct of her son?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad that that's not something my mom will ever have to read about me on the real. But to be quite honest, I don't know his mother. but I would find it hard to believe that she wasn't aware of some of this. You know your child, you know what I'm saying? And clearly, every parent doesn't know everything all their kids are involved in, but you can understand certain tendencies. So I think this is probably extra. I think it's probably a lot for her, but it doesn't seem like she may not have known about some of this. And I'm going to be interested to see how the case goes, to see if there were some things that she may have been involved in. I hope not. But when they were talking about, family and other friends were engaged in some of the intimidation and stuff, the things that people will do to keep their empire afloat, you just never know. So I hope that is a situation where his mom had nothing to do about any and didn't know a lot about this. That's what I sincerely hope. But either way, it's just got to be hard. But beyond that, as it relates to Diddy, I'm just trying to figure out, like, if there are some artificial intelligence experts who can figure out how to remove Diddy's voice from all the Biggie songs, so I can still play them, because this dude is gone. And we have to have no sympathy. One of the things we have to understand when it comes to the hip hop generation, if you are in between the ages of between your 40s and 60s, you are part of the original hip hop generation. And when we were coming up with hip hop, we didn't have parents who were hip hop. So it was battling between R&B and funk and all of that. So we are the OGs. We are the elders within the hip hop community. And we have to be the ones to say that we can't stand for this. We're not going to tolerate this. We were coming up in the music. We didn't know, those of us who are on the outside, we didn't know about R. Kelly. We didn't know about Diddy. We didn't know. And now that we know, when these things are coming out, we are standing up for our women. We're standing up for any young men or boys who might have been involved in this stuff as well. We're calling for accountability. And we have to show this next generation what accountability looks like, because we didn't have that. And a lot of the music we had growing up, and even outside of rap music, R&B and other music, a lot of songs talked about, sex with underage girls, BBD, backstage, underage, adolescent, how you doing? We sung all of these songs at the club and all of that. We didn't have the guidance. Now we are here. We are lawyers, professors, representatives in the House and councils and stuff. We have to stand up loud and proud for our people and show people that this is not accountable, because if not, we're going to let this persist for another generation. And I just am not going to live with that.
Well, I'm so glad you're right about that, Dr. Omekongo Dibinga. You're dead on about that. There was a time, Katrina, where we would have been like, oh, black man, the white man, we'd have been making some excuses for him. They didn't treat Harvey Weinstein like this. They let him out. There'd be all these excuses. I don't see that happening. People have been asking me what's social media saying. And everything I'm seeing on social media is good riddance. Why did it take so long? And, bye. I'm not seeing a lot of sympathy for him.
Yeah, I think you're not seeing a lot of sympathy for him, Areva, because a number of people have known what's been going on in Diddy's circle for a long, long time. There have been so many allegations stemming all the way back to the early 1990s when he came from under the thumb of Andre Harrell, even going back to Tupac's murder, talking about Kim Porter. There are so many unsolved or unresolved issues surrounding Diddy, where people are like, well, we're finally uncovering just a piece of it. And if I can go a step further and say, people are saying, well, what about this? Or what about that? We only see sex trafficking. We only see prostitution, but we know for a fact that this happened. I've heard stories myself, even to the point of, his bodyguard being killed because he was the father of his son. There's so many different stories that people are kind of immune to coming to his rescue, because they feel like it's been a long time coming. Unfortunately, this is how it has to happen. I was watching a video the other day. They were talking about how, and to Doc's point, we are those OGs of hip hop. So when people got their record labels, when Diddy got his label, when Jay-Z got his label, they were supposed to be the stewards of the industry. And so we have allowed the industry to devolve into a degenerate type industry where we push the wrong things. And I think this type of behavior has further perpetuated that. They were not good stewards of what was allowed.
Yeah, I mean, they've tainted the whole genre in such a way. And to have someone, the mayor of New York had just given Diddy the keys to the city. He took them back. As you said, Dr. Dominga, there's songs that his voice is in. There was a school that he was associated with, Revolt, that whole cable network. I know someone who works there. She told me they're in like total turmoil just trying to deal with the fallout. I mean, so his empire, not the sexual empire, not the criminal empire, the business empire, did provide jobs and, resources and economic opportunities for so many people. And people tried to stand by him. I remember reading articles after some of the first civil lawsuits were filed. There were still people, trying to give him the benefit of the doubt because he had impacted positive lives. And his lawyer, God bless my fellow lawyers, comes out with this statement. It was by a white guy that said, Diddy's done so much to uplift the Black community. I want to smack him and say, you know what? You can't uplift us and then tear our women down with this kind of conduct. So don't try to suggest that we should feel good because you donated $1 million. Oh, I don't care what you donated. It ain't enough money because you can't buy us as a community. And, he's obviously making every argument he possibly can to get this guy out of jail, which is his job, being a zealous advocate. But it was offensive because as if somehow we're supposed to ignore this because he is a quote unquote philanthropist that's tried to lift up the Black community. So it's just shocking. The details are far worse even than those that were in some of the civil lawsuits. I mean, the civil lawsuits took us, one place, but this indictment takes us to a whole nother level. And my guess is he's not ever going to win any of these appeals. He's going to meet the same fate as Harvey Weinstein. More women. Just today, another woman came out against Harvey Weinstein. So I suspect there'll be more women that come forward and men on Diddy, and that's it. So we will not hear from him like we will not hear from R. Kelly ever again. And he brought this on himself. He had every opportunity. He look at all that he had accomplished and what he could have accomplished, but yet he didn't deal with his demons. People say, well, he's in therapy. Well, it's a little too late at this point. So I'm glad. Just want to give all those women that have come forward. We see you. We are with you. We got your backs. And thank you for exposing this monster. Plain and simple. When we come forward, more of today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Testimony is continuing in the Tyree Nichols trial with former officer Emmett Martin returning to the stand. Prosecutors reviewed body camera footage with the former officer as he recalled the event. When asked why he accepted a plea deal and agreed to testify, Martin, who was Black, said, quote, "The truth needs to come out. It was eating me up inside," end quote. Cross-examination began and is expected to continue today. Former officers Tadarius B., Demetrius Haley, and Justin Smith are on trial for the beating death of Nichols, who was Black, during a traffic stop in 2023. Martin is facing a 40-year prison sentence as part of his plea deal. The battle over ShotSpotter in Chicago is expected to reach a peak today. Backers of ShotSpotter on the city council will try to drum up the 34 votes needed to prevent Black Mayor Brandon Johnson from taking the system offline. The mayor condemns the technology and calls it a waste of taxpayer dollars. ShotSpotter's contract expires next week. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
SIG alert in Sherman Oaks continues as the brush fire remains on the transition of the 101 North for those on the 405 South. Stop traffic continues from Burbank Boulevard. Please be advised and drive with caution. Stop traffic from Central Avenue is ahead in Diamond Bar on the 60 west of Phillips Ranch Road over 25 minutes as an accident blocks the left lane. Hit the brakes over in Diamond Bar as a stall was cleared in recovery from the 60 east after Diamond Bar Boulevard. Also, the 605 south of Ramona Boulevard in Baldwin Park, a stall Big Lake remains in the center divide. And over in OC, a stall is currently blocking the middle lane of the 405 North at Sand Canyon Avenue. Slight delay runs heavy from Highway 133.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Uh-oh. She's looking at the cigarettes, but she just grabs the gum off the counter. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer. Go to takeahealthystand.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Officials at Grambling State University are are expecting a sellout crowd for Saturday's home football game against Jackson State. It's the first time the SWAC rivals have played each other at Grambling since Deion Sanders brought Jackson State to Grambling in 2020. Grambling's Eddie Robertson Stadium has a capacity of 19,600. This is the first SWAC conference game this season for both HBCU teams. Grambling and Jackson State are 2-1 in non-conference games. More details on this game in our college football preview on Friday. Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert did not practice Wednesday, leading to concerns about his status for Sunday's game at Pittsburgh. Herbert suffered an ankle injury in Sunday's win at Carolina. Chargers coach Jim Harbaugh said Herbert is feeling better, but gave no confirmation on whether Herbert will play. Stay tuned. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Tabitha Smiley's new book, The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later, is now on sale everywhere. This classic text shot to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list almost 2 decades ago. If you have the original book, you will surely want to get this 20th anniversary edition with powerful new contributions from today's leading voices. This 20th anniversary edition presents a compelling blend of historical insights and contemporary urgency in this critical and unprecedented election year. Get your copy of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later today.
To help combat climate change, LADWP is helping neighborhoods have better access to electric vehicles by awarding nearly $130 million in EV rebates to customers just like you. From big savings on used EVs to building new charging plazas, LADWP is charging ahead to help all Angelenos experience the benefits of EVs. Get rebates of up to $4,000 for a used EV and $1,750 for a charger. Learn more at ladwp.com/EV. That's ladwp.com/EV. Asthma Peak Week is almost here, September 15th through 21st, and it's time to pay attention. Peak Week is a critical time of the year for asthma flare-ups and can lead to hospitalization. Did you know that Black Americans are approximately 5 times more likely than white Americans to be hospitalized for asthma? Stay aware, have a plan, and spread the word on Asthma Peak Week. For more active asthma care tips, visit luma-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca. Hey, LA residents, it's planting season and the perfect time to get shade trees growing around your home. LADWP and City Plants are giving every resident up to 7 free trees. That's right, 7 free trees delivered right to your door. Trees are great for the environment, help improve air quality, and can help you save on your bill when you use less air conditioning to stay cool indoors. Learn more at ladwp.com/free trees. That's ladwp.com/free trees.
Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We are back, and Dr. Omikongo Dibinga and Katrina Robinson are joining me in this hour. We're breaking down today's news. It's been a whole lot of news. And in hour 2, I'm talking with Sally Richardson Whitfield, beautiful actress who now is making a lot of news behind the camera. Since 2011, she's been building a resume, directing comedy, drama, action, and fantasy series. And she just broke an incredibly difficult to break glass ceiling. She is the first African-American woman to ever be nominated for directing a television series, a drama series. So when I learned this about Sally, I'm like, Sally, that can't be. And she's like, it is true, Areva. So I talked to Sally Richardson about breaking that glass ceiling. What did it take? And quite frankly, why did it take so long for there to be a Black woman nominated in this category? So make sure you stick around for hour two. Dr. Dominga, Sean O'Brien seems like he wants to get fired as the president of the Teamsters. He went to the RNC and gave a speech. He's cozied up with Donald Trump, and he's basically standing in the way of what would be an endorsement from the Teamsters of Kamala Harris. The Teamsters have endorsed Democratic presidents since 2008. Black Teamsters, as well as others from local groups around the country, have said, we are not following your lead, Mr. O'Brien. We're endorsing Kamala Harris. What does this tell us about the role of race in this election?
It shows that what Julian Bond said is true, that if you flip the words of America around, it spells out I am race. There's nothing in this country that race is not involved in. And the reason why Trump is able to stay in office or stay this relevant is because he's fighting to preserve whiteness for people. And for, no pun intended, but that trumps everything for some of these guys. And, the head of the Teamsters, he just made himself irrelevant by not, picking a side one way or the other. And I just feel like he has like Fox commentator aspirations or, cabinet aspirations, or something, because he just seems like he's kind of searching for spotlights. And he thought he was more important than he was. And now he's about to be irrelevant because, like you said, other, majority of unions out there support Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris. The police union is always going to back Trump because he's talking about complete immunity for anything that they want to do. So this is really sad. I really appreciate and respect all of the other unions that have gotten out there. I mean, Vice President Harris was like the tie. She broke the tie for a bill to help get Teamsters, and other union members benefits and the like. So, I mean, they have a strong track record. And the fact of the matter is, when you look at some of the earlier polls that had support for Biden versus Trump, and I think what's his name, Kennedy was still on the bill, as well as Cornel West. It was like almost equal between Biden and Trump. But once Biden dropped out and it just became Harris and Trump, it's like 60-something% to 30-something% against Kamala Harris from these Teamsters who are overwhelmingly white and overwhelmingly male. So I can only look at it there being a racial and sexist component to why they're choosing to not endorse it. Let's just call it out and let him continue to float into the field of irrelevancy.
Yeah, we got to call it out because when you look at Donald Trump, he's one of the most anti-union presidents ever. He's talking about bringing Elon Musk into his cabinet. We know how he treats employees. So there is no legitimate, logical reason for Teamsters to say we do better as a union under Donald Trump. They know that that's just absolutely absurd. But we do know, as you just said, it's a union that's predominantly white and male. That white men in general will vote against their very own interests in the hopes of trying to support white hierarchy, even if it means selling their other union brothers up a creek without a paddle. But thanks to those union members who have said, we don't really care what you're saying, Mr. O'Brien. I can't see him surviving. He's only been the president for 2 years. Yep. So likely to see some changes at the top of that organization. So just a sad day for Teamsters, for union leaders, but thankfully she has gotten an overwhelming number, she being Kamala Harris, of endorsements from labor unions, because there is no better president for labor unions than Kamala Harris. Something interesting happened, Katrina, with J.D. Vance. He's continuing he will not disavow these statements about, catless or childless cat women, I should say. And now they got Sarah Huckabee, the governor of Alabama, Arkansas. I got that state wrong. They want to attach her to that state. They probably say, oh, no, please. But Sarah Huckabee, she's getting in the mix now. She said that her children, and you and I are mothers, all of us are parents. She said her children make her humble, and that since Kamala Harris doesn't have any children, she doesn't know anything about humility. And so I was reading this article that says the only reason Republicans are laying into this ridiculous statement that J.D. Vance made has to be, they must be polling well with some part of their base. They must think that there's some MAGA folks out there that really hate women that don't have children. that really think that if you don't have biological children, because Kamala Harris has stepchildren, but that somehow you're unworthy to serve. So they think it's a way to really remind people that she's a woman and to play to that misogyny and sexism. What do you make of it? Because it seems like you're alienating the very people you need to have vote for you, which are white women.
I think they're doing a good job of shooting themselves in the foot with this. Of course, there's going to be any type of attack on whatever they feel the vulnerability is. They're desperate at this point to find something that resonates with their base as to why Kamala is not the candidate. And it's really disgusting that they would go so low as to attack whether or not she's a mother. That's very personal to a lot of women. Even though, I have children, but I also have friends who don't have children. It's a very personal issue, whatever the reason may be. But I don't think there's a bar that's any lower for this party when it comes to attacking her for who she is or what she is. And it's kind of like, those who say that a man shouldn't lead because he's not married. It's just one of those things where people just find something to nitpick at. And I don't think this is the right tree to be barking up for the Republican Party.
Yeah, I just don't see what base they could be playing to, Dr. Dominga. Obviously, women in the suburbs, white women, younger women, all very important. And you're right. The issue of parenthood and becoming a parent is really, really important. And we've seen this Trump saying on that debate stage that he's going to be this champion of in vitro fertilization. And then a bill comes to the Senate floor. And what do Republicans do, Dr. Dominga? They vote it down because they're not the party that are going to support women's rights to control their body or to try to have children in whatever way they can have children. So do you think people are really understanding that this party is not the party fighting for families or for women for that matter?
I think that most people do. I mean, when you look at all of the endorsements that Vice President Harris is getting from Republicans who might be, anti-abortion and the like, but they do believe in freedom and they do believe that people shouldn't have a right to just, be in women's offices and things like that, and that those decisions should be family decisions. The fact of the matter is that these guys are disgusting individuals, and this is what it comes down to. And I keep asking myself, are there any Republican women who don't have children? Are there any Republican women who are stepmothers? Are there any Republican women who, don't have children because maybe they, may have lost a child or chose not to have children? Like, women can actually do that nowadays, right?
And
where are they?
They can choose too, not to be a parent.
Right, exactly, right. And it's like, what about people who had children and this is the group that they never talk about. The people who may have had their own children and they may have lost to like gun violence or overseas in wars and things like that. So this campaign has been focused on othering everybody because they just feel like, except for, white male evangelicals, because they just feel like this is their last game. And to be quite honest, Trump felt like this worked for him in 2016. Every time he went out there and basically said that, I'm your last chance. I'm going to fight for you, loosely defined you, and you better get it right because it's going to be over if you don't get me. The politics of fear is what got Trump into office because he had nothing else except for some of the disdain that people already had for Hillary throughout the many years of her career. And he's falling on that again. And he has a man who's half his age, however, old he is, who's going to do the same thing. Look what's happening in Springfield, Ohio. It's like these are Vance's constituents. And he's putting them through hell. So I don't know who they think this is polling with, but we have learned that they are focusing on the politics of fear and the politics of othering because that's all they have left.
Well, the mayor of Springfield, Ohio, has basically asked Trump and Vance, do not visit our city. It will be a major distraction. Good. And you have done more to harm our city by telling this baseless lie about Haitians eating pets and animals. When we come forward, we got to talk about the House back in turmoil. Government may be shutting down in less than 12 or 15 days because Mike Johnson fundamentally does not know what he's doing. But it impacts all of us, particularly those people who work for the U.S. government. Is the government going to shut down on September 30th, which is that deadline that's looming so large? Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Have you heard of the 50-30-20 rule? This can help you spend and save your money wisely. So how does it work? Distribute your dollars into 3 buckets. 50% towards needs, 30% towards your wants, and 20% goes to savings. Use this tool to help your journey to financial success. Sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
Looks like Bobby needs a ride again.
Grab the keys. Let's take an auntie to the swap meet. Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, do it all in a Chevy SUV. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% APR on all 2024 Silverado 1500, Blazer EV, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Colorado models. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 12.7%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 9/30/24.
Walters Kluwer United States Inc. seeks product software engineer 38010 in Torrance, California to troubleshoot and determine the root cause of complex cross-product issues and identify action items to drive increased reliability. $120,106 to $195,200 per year. Telecommuting permitted. Apply at www.jobpostingtoday.com. Reference number 15588.
KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA reminds you that when we fight, we win, and we don't black down. LA Community Action Network, or LA CAN, was formed in 1999 when 25 residents of downtown LA came together and acknowledged the problems that existed in their community and made a commitment to do something about those problems, to stand together, organize, and become a force in the community that demands change. Civil rights and preventing the criminalization of poverty are their core projects. In addition, they take on women's rights, the human right to housing, and healthy food access. LA CAN also has projects focused on economic development, civic participation, voter engagement, and community media. While downtown LA remains their home base, with a particular emphasis on the Skid Row community, in 2007, they expanded their housing and healthy food access work into South Central Los Angeles. LA CAN believes that power for low-income people and people of color is achieved through a large, active, and well-informed member base that utilizes a multitude of methods to advance their messages and goals. If you'd like to join the Los Angeles Community Action Network and organize people to fight back against oppression, please visit cangress.org. That's cangress.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We're back. And Katrina, what is Mike Johnson going to do in these last couple of months as Speaker of the House? If we do our jobs right, he will not be in that position very long. But today, a $1.6 trillion stopgap spending bill to extend the current government funding into March and impose this new proof of citizenship requirements on voter registration was defeated. And this whole proof of citizenship requirement was a insistent, that was something placed in this bill because of Donald Trump's insistence. He is pretty much pulling the strings as it relates to Mike Johnson, and Mike Johnson just keeps coming up short.
Yeah, I think the party is so divided, especially with its support of former President Trump, that he's actually making a mess for himself. He knew he didn't have the votes last week. That's why I didn't come to the floor. He knew he didn't have the votes today. Trump has pretty much said, if you don't pass the SAVE Act, I wouldn't pass the budget. So he's still allowing him to be his puppet strings. And I don't think that the party is settled on doing that. And of course, we have less than 2 weeks before we are doomed for a shutdown. And I think that a lot have lost trust in him and, support of him as the leader. I think he's really digging a hole for himself.
Yeah, Dr. Dominguez, this guy, everybody knew he wasn't ready for the job, didn't have the expertise, didn't have the skills or the experience, but they thought he was kind of a do no harm guy. But unfortunately, the government needs more than do no harm. We need someone that can really, govern, and he can't seem to do so. Who's going to be the biggest loser if there's a shutdown?
Oh, clearly the American people. And yeah, they picked him because he didn't have a great national profile, but people knew who he was because he was one of the architects of the insurrection. from the legal side of things. He was working with Trump. He was one of the people who was against the election results, and they put him up there anyway because he didn't have a strong national profile. And so if this goes through, I feel like, well, it's kind of twofold. If it actually happens, the American people suffer, obviously, federal employees and the like. But if it gets close to the edge, as they often do, and then they, miraculously figure out a way to not have a shutdown, then it's absolutely going to hurt Republicans, because whenever there's a shutdown, Republicans are always the ones who tend to get blamed the most. And so I don't want us to go through the stress of a potential shutdown happening again. But if it is going to be the case, hopefully it'll go up to the last minute so that people will have this memory going into November. I want the shutdown possibilities to end tomorrow. Nobody deserves to have to worry about this, whether money's going to come. We're about to get into the holiday season and, really soon. And it's really sad, but they're going to drag this out because this is what they do. They are agents of chaos. And I hope that this is maybe this will be the October surprise that'll really just put the final nail in the coffin of this MAGA movement. But I don't want it to come at the expense of Americans and their jobs and their well-being.
Well, we know Dr. Dominga Johnson, Speaker Mike Johnson, can't get a bill passed without Democratic support because his numbers are just too razor thin and he can't hold his whole caucus together. So there are going to be some Republicans that will vote against any bill. So it looks like he's going to have to go back to Hakeem Jeffries and try to negotiate something that's acceptable to the Democrats. I don't even know what that would be at this 11th hour. It's definitely not going to include this proof of citizenship requirement that's superfluous and unnecessary. So does this just strengthen Hakeem Jeffries as a speaker, potential speaker?
Sure does. I mean, that's what I'm saying. And that's why I'm saying, like, I want it to end as soon as possible, but knowing what the Republicans are going to do, keep making the Democrats look good, because I know that they've lost they didn't have trust in him, but they felt like he was at least somebody who you knew where he stood, as opposed to McCarthy, who was doing anything, was kind of sniveling in terms of what he would do. But now they realize that he's very similar as well. So I think they're going to come through. Because imagine if the Democrats say that we're just going to allow everything to shut down, and how that's going to look in terms of how the talking points are going to be used, how it's going to be spun against them. Of course, they got to stick to their values as well. But I think that Mike Johnson is going to cave, and he's going to go to the Democrats just one more time. And I think hopefully people are going to say, well, damn, if he's going out Hakeem Jeffries again, why not just have him be, the majority?
Why do we need
speaker?
this dude?
Yeah, I'm saying, fingers crossed.
Yeah, Katrina, the last thing I want to talk about today is Donald Trump has a lot of enemies. I forgot that the Iranian government is like trying to seek revenge for his decision to kill this Iranian general Qasem Soleimani in 2020. So you got Americans trying to shoot him, even ones that have voted for him. And then you have the Iranian government. He's got a target on his back. So his rallies, I think I saw a rally now, he's got bulletproof glass like you have in a bank or something. But JD Vance says it's Kamala Harris. It's the rhetoric from the Democrats. It's clearly, we know that's a lie, but this is pretty deep that this guy is, I don't know, it's like a bounty out on his head.
I don't think Trump has an inch of this world where he doesn't have an enemy. That's a lot to be said. And there's a lot of distraction around this, especially leading up to the election. We have less than 50 days. We're going to keep seeing this over and over again as we hit the home stretch. It's nothing new. It's nothing that we should give any type of credence to, because he's going to do what he can to milk the attention. But it is real. I'm not going to say it's not real, but it's expected.
Yeah, Dr. Dominga, it's not a good look for our Secret Service. They keep telling the guy that this Mar-a-Lago, these golf courses are a security nightmare. Of course, he won't change his behavior, but it doesn't look good when the Secret Service, when there are like 2 attempts on your former president, in such a short period of time. And we can talk about all the reasons why, but I don't know, it's just one of those things, but it doesn't make us, I think, feel very confident that our Secret Service is doing their job.
Yeah, and because I have no belief or hope that there's going to be any type of integrity that's coming from this campaign. I stay cynical about them. I feel like they are always looking at ways to benefit from these attempts. And I'm not saying they're getting out there saying they want them to happen, but they're ready to spend them instantly. I mean, I remember a story when Trump was president and somebody took a picture of him from a distance. They had a high-tech camera. And when they showed it to him, he was on the golf course. And when they showed it to him, and he was mad at the picture, as opposed to the other thing that they told him. If somebody can see you with this lens, they can see you with a sniper's lens and also shoot you. But he was just upset of how the picture looked because he's such a narcissist. So he's known about these security threats. He keeps putting himself in potential line of fire. And to be quite honest, I think that some people are going to stop attending his rallies because of this fear of what may happen. And so because they don't got the bulletproof glass, he does. And and when these things do happen, we don't even get medical reports to find out what actually happened. Or really, at the end of the day, these Secret Service individuals, they are human beings. And he's putting their lives in danger as well by golfing like this, by doing this. There's other places. When Obama golfed, he golfed at Camp David because it was the most secure place to actually do this. He's sitting here golfing at places that got highways on both sides of them. He doesn't care about them. All he cares is that they're using his hotels. They're paying him money.
I was going to say, he's billing the Secret Service for being on his property.
Yeah, that's right. And that's one of the reasons why his financial fortune has actually gone up since he left the office, because people are using his hotels and Secret Service has to stay with him wherever he travels. And so I don't trust them at all. And I don't think he really cares. I think he actually feels like nothing will actually happen to him. So why not just use some publicity stunts and get more people riled up when these things actually happen? Hopefully there'll be no more attempts. Nobody wants to see this happen, but he could help the Secret Service out by being a little bit more cautious in how he moves.
It is really interesting because Elon Musk, too, there's a lot of reports about him creating his own mini Secret Service, that there's so many threats made against him that he can't really travel or do anything. I mean, CEOs of corporations don't typically need a Secret Service like level of security. They may have someone that travels with them. Many of them don't. Many, we don't even know who they are. Mm-hmm. They're not even visible to everyday people. But yet Elon Musk, because of what he has done and some of the views that he has promoted and the folks that he has angered, he also, they says it's a real security risk. Now, obviously, the government isn't paying for it. He's got $240 billion on his way to becoming probably the first trillionaire in our country. But they say he's transformed his own protection to deal with, this more public appearance that he's taking. I can't imagine if both of them were in office, as Trump says he's going to, bring Elon Musk to the White House with him if he wins. But both of these guys have done so much to create anger and hostility towards them. They would both be just a security nightmare. Well, we are out of time. Thank you so much, Dr. Dominga. Thank you, Katrina Robinson, for joining us in this hour. When we come forward, Emmy-nominated director, producer, and actress. She's still an actress. Sally Richardson Whitfield joins me. Stick around. KBLA Talk 1580. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Take care.